You've been praying to something your entire life, and there's a good chance you have no idea what it actually is. Not because you're wrong to pray, not because the presence isn't real, but because the story you were given about what that presence is, where it comes from, what it wants, how it works, may be the very thing preventing you from actually reaching it. And Edgar Cayce, the most documented psychic in American history, spent 4 decades in trance, giving over 14,000 recorded readings. He spoke about angels, he spoke about guides, but what he described was nothing like what you learned in church, or school, or anywhere. We've been sold a very comfortable story, a winged being assigned at birth, hovering just above your shoulder, catching you when you fall, steering you away from danger. It's a beautiful image, and it keeps you looking in exactly the wrong direction. Because if your guardian is out there, then you are a passenger, a soul waiting to be managed. Cayce rejected this entirely. In reading 5749:14, he described what he called the higher self, not as an external presence assigned to protect you, but as a layer of your own soul that never fully descended into matter. His exact words were striking. He said it is that which stands between the soul and the Creator, not a separate angel. The upper half of your own being, still connected to everything you came from, still holding the map of everything you came here to do. Now let me tell you about a man named Edgar Evans. Not the famous one, a different man. A businessman who came to Cayce in 1933, completely destroyed. In 2 years, he had lost his company, his marriage, and very nearly his mind. He sat across from Cayce and asked the only question that mattered to him: where was my protection? He wasn't asking philosophically. He was asking with the kind of desperation that only comes from a man who built everything with his hands and watched it disappear anyway. I prayed. I believed I did everything right. Where was my guardian angel when I needed it? Cayce went into trance. What came through silenced the room. The reading stated that this man had been warned, not once, 3 times. The first warning came in a dream, 18 months before the collapse. He dreamed he was standing in his office watching water rise slowly through the floor. He woke up, told his wife it was strange, and never thought about it again. The second came through his accountant, a quiet, careful man who asked to meet privately and told him the numbers didn't feel right. The businessman dismissed him, promoted someone else instead. The third was physical. The morning he signed the deal that would eventually ruin him, he felt a tightening in his chest so strong he sat in his car for 10 minutes before going inside. He went inside anyway. Cayce's reading didn't say the guardian had failed him. It said, the soul was warned in the manner it was capable of receiving. It chose the louder voice. The louder voice, his own certainty, his own ambition, his own plan. The guardian wasn't absent. The man had been so full of himself there was no room for anything else to enter. And here is where most people stop reading. Because that story is uncomfortable. It implies responsibility. It implies that your suffering wasn't random. It implies that somewhere, at some level, a part of you knew. But go deeper with me. Because Cayce didn't stop there. He said something that completely reframes the nature of protection itself. He told this man, this devastated, broken man, that the losses he had suffered were not a failure of his guardian. They were the guardian working. That the collapse of the business he loved was the only event powerful enough to redirect a soul that would not be redirected any other way. What if the worst thing that ever happened to you was not a detour from your path? What if it was the path? Sit with that. Really sit with it. Not as a comfort, not as a way to make peace with the past, as a genuinely terrifying possibility. Because if it's true, if the guardian doesn't protect you from the storm but sometimes builds the storm, then every category you use to separate good experiences from bad ones collapses. The divorce that destroyed you at 32, the job you didn't get, the person who left without explanation, the diagnosis that changed everything. What if none of those were failures of protection? What if they were precision? Cayce gave a reading in 1941 to a young woman who had experienced what she described as a miraculous escape. She had been driving on a mountain road in Virginia. Her car stalled on a blind curve. A truck came around the corner. Somehow she couldn't explain it. She felt herself yanked left, hard, before she consciously decided to move. The truck missed her by inches. She came to Cayce convinced she had a guardian angel. She wanted to know its name, its form, its origin. The reading was quiet for a long time. Then it said, that which intervened was not separate from thee. It was the sum of thy soul's desire to complete its purpose in this life. The body responded to what the soul already knew. Not an angel from outside. The soul itself moving the body from a level of knowing the conscious mind cannot access. She asked, but I felt a hand. The reading said, thou felt thy own highest nature. What else wouldst thou call it but a hand? This is where the philosophy becomes personal. You have felt this. You have felt something that didn't come from thought. A pull, a pause, a knowing that arrived before you had words for it. The question Cayce forces you to ask is not whether that presence exists. It's whether you've been misidentifying it your entire life. Calling it instinct when it was guidance. Calling it anxiety when it was warning. Calling it coincidence when it was correspondence. In Cayce's framework, the higher self communicates through 4 primary channels. Dreams first. Not the surface ones, the fragments and replays, the ones that feel heavier than waking life, the ones that leave a residue for days. He documented hundreds of cases where specific, actionable information arrived in dreams, medical diagnoses, business decisions, warnings about people that were later verified as accurate. In Reading 26283 he stated, dreams are tonight's answers to tomorrow's questions. The second channel is what he called the still small voice. It arrives in the space between thoughts. It doesn't argue, it doesn't repeat itself. It says the thing once, clearly, and then your ego spends the next 3 days talking over it. The third is the body, the tightening in the chest, the nausea before the wrong decision, the inexplicable lightness before the right one. Cayce insisted the body was a receiver, not just a machine. That physical sensation was one of the primary ways the higher self communicated with the incarnated part. And the fourth, synchronicity, the meaningful coincidence. The book that falls open to the page you needed. The stranger who says the exact sentence you'd been turning over in your mind for weeks. Not magic, not superstition. Cayce called it the soul arranging its own curriculum. So what do you do with this? Start with your dreams tonight. Place a notebook beside your bed. Before the day floods in, before the phone, before the noise, write down whatever you woke with. Not to interpret it, not yet. Just to signal to that deeper layer, I'm listening now. Learn to notice the body. The next time you're about to make a decision, before the mind starts its analysis, pause, 20 seconds, notice what the body does, not what it says, what it does. And when things fall apart, and they will, try just once to ask a different question. Not why is this happening to me, but what did this come to complete? The readings are clear on one thing. Your guardian has never been silent. It has been speaking to you in every dream you dismissed, in every warning you overrode, in every loss that broke you open to something you couldn't have reached any other way. The presence is real. It has always been real. But it was never the figure with wings standing outside you. It was always the oldest part of you, reaching down through the veil, trying to remind the part that forgot why it came here in the first place. And here is the thought I want to leave you with. Maybe your guardian angel has never been silent. Maybe the voice you've spent your whole life calling me was the interruption. If something in this cracked something open for you, come deeper with me. Every week we go further into what consciousness actually is, what the soul already knows, and what the greatest seekers in history discovered when they stopped looking outside themselves for answers. The journey doesn't end here. It starts here,